Hello and welcome to the London Free Press Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Gilbert. London will soon have a new police chief, and for the first time in 25 years, the new chief is not an internal hire. So today I'm talking with London Free Press crime reporter Dale Carruthers about who the new chief is, what his priorities are, and who wasn't chosen. Hi, Dale. How are you?
Hey, Rachel, I'm good. Thanks for having me on here today.
Of course. We love having you on. You know, the dirt on London for sure. So let's start from the top. Who is the new chief and where is he from?
All right, so it was almost a 5-month wait to find out who the new chief would be, and we found out Monday at a press conference. And his name is Truong. He's coming from York Regional Police. He's been there for almost 21 years, most recently working as a commander in Richmond Hill.
Okay. Let's talk about the process of how he was selected because it was quite a long one. Is that right?
Yeah, it was almost 5 months. So the police service board is responsible for hiring police chiefs. So it started with they posted the ad, and then they did 3 rounds of interviews with candidates, and then they made their final selection last week, and they would have entered into contract negotiations. That's another part of their job. So they would negotiate a contract with the candidate, likely for 3 years. They won't disclose that information. But the last police chief, Steve Williams, had a 3-year contract with a 1-year renewal option. So that's probably the case this time as well.
Okay. And Steve Williams just retired in February. Since then, we've had an acting chief, Trish McIntyre, who's been doing the job, and she did apply for this chief's job, but she wasn't the one chosen, which is unusual because again, she would be an internal hire, and this wasn't this time.
Yes, Trish McIntyre is a deputy police chief with London. She oversees administration, and she applied for this job. She confirmed to me, and obviously she wasn't chosen, so she'll still hold down the chief's job in an acting capacity until June 1st when the new chief is sworn in.
Okay.
And then she'll go back to being a deputy chief, and London is also going to be hiring another deputy chief to replace Stu Betts, who left to be the police chief in Peterborough too. So they'll finally have 2 deputies and a chief on a permanent basis, which hasn't been the case in a while. We're not privy to the decision made by the police board, so we don't know why one candidate was chosen over the other. But it's open to internal and external candidates. That's something they said from the beginning, and they went with an external candidate in this case.
Absolutely. You want the best person for the job. Chief Truong is actually going to be the first racialized chief as well here in London. He's the son of Vietnamese immigrants, and I know that the Police Services Board, there was some controversy about appointing a civilian member and having someone from the BIPOC community, having a more diverse membership on the board. Do you think that was a factor in this decision too?
It's hard to say again because I don't know what the police board based their decisions on. But the board chair, Ali Chabar, told an interesting anecdote at the press conference on Monday. He talked about walking into police headquarters and walking down this hallway that is lined with portraits of all the police chiefs since the force was formed in 1855. And he said it's all white men up until this one. So he said they kind of made history. So the police always strive to resemble the community they represent here in London, and London is a diverse community. But merit would be the main thing a police chief is hired on, because it's a really important job, and the incoming chief has a very impressive resume and background. Some of the areas he specializes in: human trafficking, child exploitation, homicide investigations, organized crime. These are issues that we have here in London. So he's kind of outlined his priorities. He said public safety is going to be his #1 priority. And that's something that's top of mind for a lot of Londoners recently. With recent shootings, there's been unprovoked attacks, not just in London, but across the country. As police continue to deal with issues of homelessness and mental illness, public safety is a really big priority. So that was the first thing the chief said, that public safety is going to be one of the main focuses of his tenure here.
Yeah, he did touch on a lot of the shootings, and we've had several recent shootings in London, including one just last week.
Yeah, there's been 11 incidents of gunfire to date, and probably the most brazen one was on April 23rd, and it was a shootout. It wasn't just a shooting. There was at least 3 gunmen involved in this shootout. It was
What's the difference between a shooting and a shootout?
well, traditionally the shootings I cover, there's usually only one gun fired. In rare
Okay.
instances, there might be a second gunfire, but that's really rare. To have 3 guns fired in one instant is almost unprecedented in London. Since I've been the
Mm,
crime reporter for the last 12 years, I haven't come across a similar case. So it started April 23rd, 2:45 a.m. in a series of parking lots near Richmond and Oxford Street. Police were called to a disturbance in the area. When they got there, they said they found evidence of gunfire, but no gunshot victims. A couple
mm,
minutes later, police found out that 2 men showed up at the hospital with gunshot wounds. They were driven in cars separately. So when the hospital admits a patient with a suspected gunshot wound, they're obligated by law to contact police. So they contacted police. And so police launched this massive investigation. They were on the scene for pretty much the whole day Sunday, multiple crime scenes behind the beer store on Piccadilly and the Wendy's back there. They had several areas cordoned off. Um,
okay.
3 businesses were also struck by gunfire, and I think it was 6 or 7 vehicles were also struck, and the 2 men were injured, non-life-threatening injuries. And then just this week, London police announced 2 men were charged in the case with attempted murder and various other weapons-related offenses, drug offenses too. And a third man is being sought. There's an arrest warrant for him on various gun charges as well.
Wow. So of course Chief Truong will knows about all of this and he knows what's going on in London now. And he's from the York region. So does he think maybe does he have expertise in that area that he thinks he can help with here?
Absolutely. He would have expertise in guns and gangs and things like we're
Okay.
seeing in London, but he would know it from his time in the York region on a much larger scale. And he actually touched on that at the press conference and said he's going to use his knowledge of GTA crime and GTA criminals who are often coming to London and are implicated in crimes here, especially gun
Mm,
violence and drug trafficking, human trafficking. We see people from the Toronto region often charged. So he said he'll use his connections and his knowledge to help tackle those issues in London. He's singled out gun violence in London as being a major problem that he wants to address. He said the shootings are absolutely unacceptable. So I would assume he is getting updated on the most recent cases. And in June 1st, when he starts here, we'll see how it goes because shootings are definitely on the rise this year in London. Like I said, there's
yeah.
11. That's compared to 7 to date last year. Um,
Wow.
I think it's 9 people injured and 1 person has died as a result of these shootings. And in this most recent one, I was speaking to acting chief McIntyre, and she said it's a miracle that no bystanders were shot. She didn't
Mm,
disclose how many bullets were fired, but we know there was at least more than 10 shots fired based on how many
wow.
vehicles, businesses, and people were injured.
Yeah. Chief Truong also at the press conference mentioned that another one of his priorities is taking care of the members of the London Police Service. What does he mean by that and why is that important?
He means that he wants to ensure that they're looked after physically and mentally, right? Up to 10% of London police employees can be off the job at any time for a range of reasons maternity leave, paternity leave, injuries, psychological issues. And that really impacts police and their ability to provide service because they're down 10% of their staff. And
Hmm.
they're already short staffed, right? That's something we hear all the time. Um, Chief Steve Williams, Chief McIntyre, everyone has sounded the alarm on an officer shortage for forever, right?
Right. And we've touched on that here too on the podcast.
Exactly.
So it's
Some we've
nothing
spoken.
new.
And so the incoming chief wants to ensure that his police, his officers are able to do their job effectively. So
Right.
he has to take care of them. He said to provide community safety, he needs to take care of his officers, right? And so that's going to be a big pillar of his administration. And that's natural. Police chiefs always want to look after their officers because if your officers aren't doing well, they can't do their job well.
Sure.
And so there's a lot of challenges that come with policing as they deal with more calls for service, complex calls, often dealing with people carrying weapons, people experiencing mental health issues, homelessness. It's a very difficult job being a police officer, and from what I'm told, it's only becoming more difficult.
Yeah. Let's talk about acting chief McIntyre just for a moment. She will still be one of the deputies, is that right?
Yes, she's going to go back to the deputy in charge of administration after June 1st. So she'll be supporting the new chief in her role there.
Okay. She was up for this chief role, wasn't chosen, as we know. Are there people who are maybe a little upset about that because she would have been one of the internal candidates, right?
Obviously, she had a lot of support in her bid to become chief internally. She's very popular with the rank and file officers
Mm.
within London Police Organization. In the last couple months as acting chief, she showed really strong leadership abilities, especially during difficult times. There was the incident where 2 police officers were shot 2 months ago during a
Mhm.
standoff with a homicide suspect. She showed tremendous leadership during that whole ordeal, which is really difficult for London police. And yeah, she's really popular in the community too. She is excellent with the media. She always makes time to speak to the media and keep the public updated on important investigations. So there would be people that are disappointed that she didn't get the job, but probably not a lot of them would want to go on the record and say that because they have a new boss coming in.
Right. And she'll still be there, of course, to support and have one of the top jobs for sure.
Exactly. She's still a deputy, and so we'll be speaking to her lots, and she'll
Yeah.
play a very important role with London Police going forward.
So tell me about the changeover and how does that happen? Chief Truong takes his position June 1st. Is there going to be a ceremony of sorts? Do we know?
But they said he becomes chief effective June 1st, and then they have what's called a change of command ceremony. They haven't scheduled that yet, but they did the last one in the convention center. All the senior police officers are there, and they actually change the command, and it's this big ceremony. And that will be scheduled probably in June, is what I assume yet,
Okay.
but we haven't got that update.
Don't have a date yet. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Dale. We're definitely when we get the date, I'm sure you'll have it for us, and we'll be watching for your stories on lfpress.com about that and all policing matters. So thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Rachel. I appreciate it.